So there's a dream of savings, home ownership, financial wealth. And here's a warning to a lot of folks out there who think that it's not possible. The Fed is actually making it more difficult for everybody, regardless of who you are, in most cases, where you're from, what you look like, where you grew up, what school you went to. The Fed is pushing to destroy the economy in attempts to save the economy, so to speak. And you got to pay attention to this. Now, I was actually having a conversation with someone who was explaining home ownership, the dream of home ownership, which is just that to them, because based on their life experiences and what they've been through, what they've been told, what they think, what the media tells them, what their friends tell them, is that they'll never own a home ever. And the sad truth is, it's probably going to be much more difficult now, more than ever, for people with that mindset and that mentality to actually accomplish home ownership. You got a lot of various factors weighing in on that particular wealth building tool, or just a lifelong accomplishment of home ownership. But just think about the folks down in South Florida who have been affected by Hurricane Ian, for instance. This is a terrible time for that to happen, and here's why. The housing market is questionable, depending on which market you're in. Now, South Florida is going to be a struggle, but South Florida in general is going through some form of gentrification where the uber expensive real estate is only becoming more uber expensive. So you add that to the softening housing market as far as buyer confidence, it makes it harder for the average buyer and the average seller to really succeed right now moving forward, because they're reliant upon their job. They're relying upon their credit. They're relying upon the Fed and interest rates and mortgages. Now, if you're in South Florida and perhaps maybe you had a home and it has been destroyed, and you now have to, your family's safe, which is the most important component, safety first, life over everything else. But now you have to move on, okay? But after the insurance claim, after the adjusters, after the payoff, all that, you still have to finance this home. And interest rates are through the roof. You weren't in a position to be prepared to finance a home because you didn't think about it. You weren't worried about it. That wasn't your plan. That wasn't your goal. Now you've been displaced and you need to find a new place, and your interest rate now is going from 3.5% maybe to over 7%. This is the doing of the Fed. The Fed is driving up interest rates in an attempt to slow down the economy with hopes of destroying 1.2 million jobs for Americans, to bring the housing market down, to slow inflation. Now, there are some folks out there that I was actually having a conversation with about how they paid for their home cash. They felt as though they could sleep well at night. They were safe. Well, they also underinsured their home, which put their cash at extreme risk. Now, these weren't super wealthy, uber rich people. These were just folks that worked really hard for a very long time in their lifetime and pinched pennies and were very frugal to get them in a position to own, not just finance a home, but actually own it. But they said to themselves, we own it. There's no requirements from the mortgage companies, no requirements from the bank on insurance. And you know what? We'll self-insure, so to speak. Well, When a hurricane comes through and wipes out everything, you know what you own after that? You own the parcel, pretty much. You own the address. The house is gone. The house is it's a total loss. The cost that it would take to repair probably exceeds the cost that it would take to demolish it, level it, and start over from scratch. And for folks in this particular situation where they thought that they were doing the right thing, they're actually seeing how devastating and catastrophic this can be. But it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what you look like. The Fed is in control of the markets. The Fed manipulates the stock market. The Fed manipulates the housing market. The Fed manipulates crypto. The Fed and their monetary policy, their interest rates, how much money they print, how much money that they take out, their quantitative tightening, their quantitative easing, the Fed pretty much is running the show for the most part. And now we're seeing this across the board. We're seeing this in other countries where countries are ultimately collapsing. Their currency, their financial system is collapsing, and their monetary policy now, their play is to absorb the debt, put it on a ledger, print more money, and keep the show rolling. That just further, regardless of whatever currency you hold, you value, that just further devalues it. So the only real assets that are going to continue to be worth anything will be actual physical goods like real estate, as long as the structure is still standing, land, precious metals, gold, silver, but the key is to have diversity so that you're not vulnerable to just one potential mistake that could wipe you out completely. And, even having skills are going to be valuable, because those can always translate into, even if currency isn't the tool, the medium of exchange, the skill will be. But I think that especially here in the United States, we will always continue to barter and exchange through currency, whether it's physical dollars, which probably won't be the case because there's a huge limitation on physical, actual cash. We've talked about that before. Or whether it's through a central bank digital currency, which the government would prefer for various reasons. You guys know those reasons. If you don't, comment below. Ask me, what are those reasons? We can get to that. But even still, decentralized currencies like cryptocurrency could potentially be it. Granted, there's some extreme volatility there, but there are folks that I'm speaking to now that are being hit in South Florida. They actually, one of them actually said, Kevin, I found your video. I found your channel, but I found your video in your channel after watching Richard Fain. So Richard Fain was a retired football player. I think he lives in South Florida. He discusses money, finance. He's got a Porsche 911 GT3. I think it's a 991.2. He's got a BMW M5. I think it's an F10 M5. And I think he's got a Range Rover or something. But he's got a financial advisory company, and he talks about money and finance and real estate and building wealth and basic, simple tools and strategies, especially those which I've noticed on some of his videos are titled, What the Banks Don't Want You to Know. How to build wealth. Every time you get money, do this. How I turn $500 into $5,000. How I turn $5,000 into $50,000. Explaining credit, explaining APR, explaining the Fed rate, explaining finance and money, with somebody even saying that you go through 12 years of schooling and most people come out unaware of how to manage their finances, which is really interesting if you think about it. If you think about who's behind the school's curriculum, the government's involvement with school curriculum and school syllabus, yet how little they teach on financial education. You see what I'm saying? But they'll tell you to go out and run out and go get a 9-to-5 job that'll barely pay your bills, barely allow you to get by, not educate you on savings and investing and diversification, only to find ourselves in situations like we are here today, and people struggling and worried to death about inflation, about a recession, about a depression, about hyperinflation, about the interest rates, about the housing market, about rental prices, about being able to afford food, about being able to take care of their family, about even having the ability to afford insurance to cover you in a catastrophic loss like folks are experiencing down in South Florida from Hurricane Ian. But someone came to me and said, I found your channel from Richard Fain, and he's explaining how this is not, if you are smart and you're paying attention and you're preparing and you're willing to go out and do what needs to be done, you can actually pull through this. But if not, and you're just going to sit back and continue to be more of the same where you were before, then I'm not going to lie, like 2, 3 years, 4 years from now, most of those people are not going to survive, because it's going to be harder than ever. It's going to be harder than ever as we progress through this and we start to see a lot of these plans taking shape and taking form through this new world order, through the World Economic Forum's one single global world economy, and the powers that be having more and more say in what's going on and what we're going to be forced to, adopt, so to speak. And they're slowly taking control without even letting people know that they are, where if you actually pay attention, it's like, okay, so interest rates are driving up. Home ownership is going to become obsolete. It's going to be a distant memory. It's going to be a fairy tale. It's not even going to be a dream. Meanwhile, the banks are recouping all this money that the people thought they had. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell talking about people got all this money from stimulus checks. Nah, that was a card trick. That's sleight of hand. You thought you had money. You thought they gave you money. Then you did your taxes and you realized that wasn't true. And now we're starting to see the reversal here, where you thought that they were trying to ease the pain during the pandemic, which that's a whole nother topic on how that got started and how all of a sudden it's over. It's over. Everybody's fine. If you got this, you're good. If you didn't get it and you didn't get the boosters, you're good too. It doesn't matter. Whatever. Whole nother topic. But the simple fact of the matter is now the banks are taking over. The banks are going to start taking that money back through high interest rates, and families are going to be broken through default, through bankruptcy, through foreclosure, through eviction, through job loss, through everything being pushed by the Fed that we're seeing globally. Everything being pushed by the Fed, so that when it's all said and done, the banks will own everything. You'll own nothing, but the governments own the banks. You see what I'm saying? Do you see where this is going? I hope this is sinking in. I hope you guys are paying attention. Now, I had the opportunity to speak with some very, very smart, intelligent people for the last few days. Chris Igo in South Florida, genius in real estate, and how smart people, intelligent people are going to be able to not fall in this trap and still survive, and not be a victim and not be forced to own nothing. The economic ninja, another real smart individual, way ahead of everybody else, for most part, the people that I'm talking to, way ahead of all of them as far as what's going on. And, if he told you what was really going on, it would blow your mind. And I think he's slowly kind of trying to reveal a little bit piece by piece, because if he were to let it loose, I'll just have to leave it at that. It would blow your mind. But with that being said, y'all should pay attention because the warning signs are there. The indications are there. The key indicators are there. I don't even know if we're going to have a next big event. There's going to be so many smaller big events going on. It's going to be hard to pinpoint the next big event. And I think that's by design to catch people off guard. But at the end of the day, if you don't have diversity, you'll wind up like some of the folks that I've been talking to in South Florida that are being hit and don't have a backup plan when it comes to income, don't have a backup plan when it comes to cash, don't have a backup plan when it comes to credit, don't have a backup plan when it comes to housing, and maybe even finding themselves in a situation where their wealth is stuck in a home that they can't access because of floodwaters, no power, no water. They had a lot of money maybe stashed away, a lot of precious metals stashed away, gold, silver, in a safe that is now at risk because they've evacuated. They don't know when they can return, and they know that their homes, their neighborhoods are at risk of being looted by people out there waiting to take advantage of this situation and steal everything that you've worked hard for. Perhaps maybe even having access to an abandoned vehicle, and perhaps maybe getting a hold of a credit card or a checking account that you now have to report to the bank's fraud department, which is probably being inundated with calls. You're on hold for several hours, racking up charges and fees that you have nothing to do with, only to shut down your account. But now you don't have a backup plan because your account's shut down to prevent further fraud. And they can't ship you a new car because you've evacuated, and they won't send it anywhere except for your primary residence. But you didn't have another backup plan besides that of multiple bank accounts, multiple credit unions, multiple credit cards to protect yourself. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about it on multiple videos. I've been talking about it for months. People said, Kevin, you're crazy. Kevin, you don't know what you're talking about. Kevin, that's not the case. That's not true. Our biggest concern is running out of food. No, our biggest concern is everything that's going on. And what's the biggest concern with food is going to be the fact that most people won't be able to afford to buy it. That's going to be the biggest one. Y'all should go check out Trucking Prepper. Go check out Trucking Prepper. He put a poll up on his channel, on his community post. I want you to check that out. I want you guys to vote. And I want you to come back and I want you to comment what you voted. And then we're going to have a discussion about that, about the next big event, the next big SHTF that's going to wipe everybody out. What's going to happen is families that are unprepared, they're not paying attention to the warning signs, they are going to fall into that category that the Fed has of the 1.2 million families that they're trying to wipe out in their attempt to slow the economy, bring down the housing market, drop values, lower inflation. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work the way that they have envisioned, planned, which isn't even really a plan because Jerome Powell himself says, I don't even know if this is going to work. He said that. I don't know how long it's going to take. He has no clue. Just rolling the dice. The consequences of his actions won't affect him. It'll affect 99% of the people watching this video. Probably even more people out there that aren't watching this video because their head is in the sand and they're worried about the wrong thing. And unfortunately, we're going to see the effects of all that's going on as we're rolling into a cold winter, abysmal holiday shopping season, which is going to just destroy so many in so many ways that people are not willing to understand and grasp until 2023 when we have this conversation. We have a recap of 2022, and this is a lot going on. There's a lot going on. I hope you guys are paying attention and are at this point in time in this video made it this far to say to yourself, you know what? I am ready to actually do something. I am ready to prepare. I am ready to grind hard so that my family doesn't get wiped out. That when this economy gets shut down, I'm still able to pay my bills. I'm still able to survive. I'm still able to keep a roof over my head. I'm still able to buy food and feed my family. I don't have to live on the street. I don't have to be forced to be homeless and live in my car. If you're still watching at this point in time, you're smart. You're smart, you're intelligent, you're wise, and you've got what it takes. Just don't wait too long. Don't wait too long. Don't let it go by and you look back and you say, damn, I wish I would have did something sooner. Do it now.